So my speech is titled Freedom of the Press Matters, and I'm assuming you believe that already or you wouldn't be here. The Founding Fathers believed it. The Constitution says the country believes it as a core principle. But I'd like to share the hardest lesson that my students learn when they come to the Indiana State House and try to put that phrase into action. Freedom of the press matters, but what happens when people act as if it does not matter? I teach journalism at Franklin College, as Sharon said, and I'm executive editor of the State House File, which is Franklin's full-time, year-round student newsroom in the press corps of the Indiana State House. My program's 20 years old. There's only 30 such programs in the entire nation. And every semester, Franklin's journalism majors come to our little office in the basement of the State House to work alongside the professionals. My students wear a press badge. They sit in the press box of the Senate or the House chambers. They go to committee meetings. They write stories. They make multimedia that gets republished all around the state. And they get to watch government up close, probably for the first time. Civics education being what it is, my students arrive with only a vague notion sometimes of how a bill becomes a law. And some of them have never driven their car in downtown Indianapolis before, much less do they understand how a conference committee works. My students have to learn all the elements of this very complicated system at the same time as they're learning how to talk to important strangers, how to write coherently, and maybe wear a blazer every day for the first time. But that's not the hard part. The hard part every time, for every reporter I have, is getting our elected officials to give them the time of day. Now, there are a lot of reasons that a lawmaker might not talk to my reporters. My reporters look 12. They recently were 12. Lawmakers have a ton of people calling them all the time. They're busy people. Ignoring emails, ignoring messages is what busy people do. Maybe they've had a negative experience with the press. If I'm going to be more cynical, I'm going to say maybe they have found it convenient to dislike the press. So while many of our lawmakers can be counted on to be responsive to the press corps, many prefer to issue press releases and post on social media and communicate through channels that they can completely control. So if freedom of the press matters, is that okay? I'm going to say no. We have to have lawmakers' comments for the stories we write because it would be biased and it would be irresponsible for us to publish information with half that information missing. So the most important skill that I end up teaching my lovely Midwest, milk-fed, polite students is how to talk to strangers, how to take up space, and how not to take no for an answer. Basically do a lot of things their mothers raised them not to do, like send an email and then send another email and then send 2 emails a day for a week. Call and then call again and then call again. Scrounge around for the person's personal cell phone and then use it. Call people they might know and get them to call for you. Go to the person's office and sit in a chair until they can't ignore you anymore. Go find out what meetings they have today, stand outside those rooms, and wait for them to come out. I don't know if you've met any young people recently, but they don't even like to answer their cell phones, much less do they think this sounds not terrifying or horrifying. So this turns out to be their big important lesson. Freedom of the press matters, but a lot of lawmakers, policy makers, government officials, business people, nonprofit administrators, a lot of people in charge of a lot of things that are very important in our communities act as if freedom of the press does not matter. They don't choose to participate. They don't choose to make time. They don't choose to be scrutinized or to explain their motives or to answer hard questions. And I won't even touch on the ones who call us fake news. Here's how my students have to learn how to respond. Not to think about the guy in charge, ignoring them, not to think about how they're irritating people or embarrassing themselves, to think about the ordinary people out there who need this information and don't have the ability to get it. Because do you have time to do all this work yourself? I have a reporter right now working on a story about the Afghan evacuees living in Indiana and who can't get clear answers about their immigration statuses. She interviewed one man who has 3 children, 3 jobs, and gets 4 hours of sleep a night. Does he have time to go stand outside a lawmaker's office and wait for that person to emerge and answer questions about how the rules have changed for him? No, he doesn't. Would you, as an ordinary citizen, even know how to navigate the State House? Do you know where to park, what door to go in, how to find your senator or representative's office? Would you be able to get past the receptionist if you did? That building is public, but it's huge and confusing and intimidating, and most of the business scheduled in that place is from 9 to 5 on weekdays when people are at work. As a result, we see relatively few members of the public there. You can try calling yourself, of course, but have you ever rung up your lawmaker to share an opinion? You probably talked to an intern or left a message on a machine and didn't hear anything back. And it's not just government officials. For example, my electric bill has doubled in the last year. But I haven't read the fine print on the bill. I haven't called the 800 number. I didn't attend the meeting last week with the regulatory agency that's deciding if AES can raise our rates again. It was scheduled an hour away from my house and on a weekday afternoon, and I'm busy teaching Gen Z how to talk on the phone. I was not there. But the Indy Mirror was there, Indy Star was there, Capitol Chronicle was there. A bunch of reporters were there for me, so I didn't have to be, but I could still get the information and maybe even understand it a little. Many shy State House file reporters have found the courage to be persistent and annoying and get answers from people in charge who would rather not give them because they realize that it matters to ordinary people. At first, my students are very intimidated and daunted, but they finally make the connection that when people in positions of power ignore us, the press, they're ignoring you, the people. When they vilify the press, when they find excuses not to engage with it, not to be challenged by it, they're hiding from the people they're supposed to work for. Journalism is called the fourth estate. We're the final balance in this delicate system of judiciary and legislative and executive. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the balance is off. It's getting worse. But instead of discouraging my students, this experience lights a fire in them for this work. And that alone gives me so much hope for the future. I'll turn it back to you and ask, do you act like freedom of the press matters? If you want to help, thank you. If you want to help, please be careful about the media you consume and share. Look for outlets that deeply research their subjects, that talk to many people on many sides, and that use substantive evidence. And please pay for the journalism that you use if you're able. There are many responsible local journalists at work. Indianapolis has seen a lot of growth in the last 5 years since I started my job in the State House. We've seen Mirror Indy, the Capitol Chronicle, States News, Chalkbeat, Axios come in. Some are nonprofits like we are. Some are for-profit. Some of them are part of Free Press Indiana, which is an organization that's fighting news deserts all around the state. Reading, subscribing, financially contributing to these outlets means that they can keep working, keep bothering all of those lawmakers and other folks in charge. And I would love it if you would read the State House file. Last year, I had 28 students, and they produced over 2,100 pieces of content that got published all over the state. They won professional and collegiate, regional, and national awards. We beat out places like Harvard and Northwestern, which for Franklin College, with less than 900 students, that's quite heady company. Our political life is getting darker and scarier, but these young people I work with, they are working so hard, and they're doing it for you, the public, with a sense of mission that I hope you can find encouraging. That's it for me. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.